Good evening. I'd like to call to order the May 21st meeting of the Ross Valley Sanitary District Board of Directors. Doug is in the building, although not sitting at the dais quite yet. May I have a roll call, please?
Director Meggs?
Here.
Director Sella?
Here.
Director Gaffney?
Present.
Director Borstein?
I am here.
Okay. Director Kelly will be walking in any moment, I believe. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Does anyone have any comments on the agenda or anything we need to move around?
The agenda.
All right.
It's a short agenda.
Should we put the Larkspur Landing up?
Do we have?
It's short.
We have the fellow from Larkspur Urban.
Staff, do you think that's a good idea? Okay. All right, then we'll rearrange the agenda to move item number 9 to directly after public comment.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
I move the agenda with that change.
Second.
Okay, thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you. Do we have any public present who would like to make public comments on items not related to the agenda? Hearing none, we'll move on to item number 9, which we re-agendize: consideration of authorizing general manager to issue a request for qualifications to interested developers for the surplus property at 2000 Larkspur Landing Circle, Larkspur, California. Steve.
Thank you, President Silla and board members. We have Bryant Sparkman here from Century Urban, who we've been working with for several years to manage the real estate disposition at 2000 Larkspur Landing Circle, site of our former treatment plant. And this stage in the process follows on, as the staff report briefly summarized what it's led to this point. But we most recently in February, the board adopted the resolution that declared this property, the former treatment plant, as exempt surplus property, which is a term out of the Surplus Lands Act for sites that are over 10 acres and would be developed with a minimum of 300 housing units and 20% of which would be meet the definitions of affordable housing. And so there are conditions on the property going forward under that declaration. But that's today, the next step really after declaring the land surplus is to make it available on the market to solicit qualifications of interested developers and do a two-step process. First, getting the qualifications documents from the interested developers and then working with the Century Urban team to evaluate those qualifications and make recommendations to the board, then subsequently at a subsequent board meeting for a short list of qualified candidates to then subsequently solicit requests for proposals. So that's generally the process ahead of us that we've discussed at length. And, and we've talked about the schedule that, if everything goes smoothly, we could be working with a selected developer early next year with that process ahead of us. So I don't really want to go into too much more detail than that, other than I hope you've had a chance to review the document. It lays out the role of the developer and it lays out the evaluation criteria and the types of scoring that we intend to use for evaluating the qualifications to develop a short list of potential development partners. So I think that's all I have for my overview. As I said, Bryant Sparkman is here to answer any questions about the process, as I anticipate you may have some questions. It's pretty exciting to be at this point, where we actually can see what the market will tell us about, what the potential is for development of this long vacant property. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions you may have for me, or as I said, Bryant is here too. And Felicia knows a lot about this too. She's a resource.
Thank you. We looked at this at the Finance Committee. Also, board members, does anybody have any questions for Steve or for Bryant regarding
I have one.
the process?
How many, you're going to get finalists to actually submit a proposal? How many do you think is optimal? I mean, they have to do a lot of work, don't they, to submit an actual proposal?
Good to be here with you all. This has been about a 5-year, just under a 5-year journey. And so, and we're excited about where we're at. A lot has transpired in this period of time. Now, in terms of that 2-step process, we don't know how many development parties will actually submit, but we think there's going to be a healthy amount of participation in the RFQ. So there's no hard and fast rule as to how many you may select. Depending on the competitive field, it could be 4, it could be 5, it could be 7.
Really?
And I think some of that is, we want to have competition as part of the RFP process, which is where the terms really kick into the process. So for right now, I think it's safe to assume there's a number probably around 5 parties that are in the final RFP round, if we had to kind of just shake our crystal ball and guess where we might be in the future.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks. Pam?
I have a comment. Thank you. It's very well done and organized with definitions, terms, and all that. And I really appreciate the evaluation category. That can say a lot or not. The other thing on here is the developer role, which really gives us some interaction and control, design, et cetera, which I'm really happy to see that. And this is a draft, right?
That's right.
So it's more, so.
Yep.
Anyway, that's it.
Thank you. Thank you for the feedback. And one of the things we did on Monday, we hired a photographer to do drone photography, some photos of adjoining buildings and properties. So this is just a draft. You're going to see a much more kind of polished version of the same document in the coming weeks. So, yeah.
Interest rates. Have you thought
Could you
about
speak
that?
into your microphone, Pamela?
Interest rates, sorry. Have you thought about that or not?
Debt capital markets for land acquisitions, generally, there's not a whole lot of debt available today. We think a lot of the firms who are going to be participating in this competitive process are generally going to be all cash buyers. We think some of these groups will potentially secure indebtedness. But the way we've structured this process, generally speaking, in terms of the scoring, we're going to look to groups with the financial wherewithal to close without debt. But it is a consideration down the road for future development, but hopefully we'll be far out of the picture by the time that happens, when the land is recorded at the closing. Yeah.
I should have mentioned that the date in the RFQ right now for submittal of the qualification packages is at August 15th. So that gives some time between now and then for qualified developers to pull together those packages. And then that would position us to be able to do the evaluations and have an RFP process kick in. September seems fast, but maybe in October, September or October.
This is sort of prompted by Pam's question and then just sort of prompted by the term developer. We are selling to we will potentially be selling to a developer. We will not be assessing how they will be developing the property at all, right? We are
Yeah, so
I, as a lawyer, would just rather hear them called the buyer than the developer, because we're not
sure.
going to try to exercise any control over that. Larkspur, the city of Larkspur has control over what happens on the property, correct?
So the way this has been conceived is we would sell or dispose of the property. However, the RFQ leaves open the option for either a ground lease for all or a portion of the site. So that's really at your election and based on the proposals
Okay.
as they come in. As a safeguard, one of the things we're proposing is to have major decision approval rights. So if a buyer or developer is chosen and they decide to rezone the site as a 50-story hotel, we might say, we have the ability to say timeout. That's not consistent with the business plan as we proposed it.
Right.
So those are the kind of safeguards that we have, but no, we're not going to be playing developer and telling them what to build, but we will ask for what would you like to build?
I
And then
see.
ultimately have an ability to say, hey, if you've deviated from that plan, then we'd like you to get back on the main course.
And the city of Larkspur would be doing that as well, right? Or we just,
Pursuant
we're a little
to
closer
the
to it.
T5 mixed use zoning and the objective design and development standards, consistent with what's in the general plan in the housing element. There's all kinds of safeguards that the city would have its ability to guide the process, but that's outside of our purview. That would be the city of Larkspur
Okay.
and the developer with, at the end of the day, us having a major decision approval right until they close on the land.
Okay. And so using the term developer retains the possibility that this could be somebody who develops it for a long-term lease.
It's a possibility.
Okay.
It certainly is.
Interesting. Okay. I didn't understand that. Thank you.
So our selection criteria is not a price. Do we get a price at this proposal? Will we get an offering price for the property?
We will. In the RFQ, the reason you don't see that in the RFQ scoring is because we're not asking for kind of the price and terms is the Q. Where we're asking for that is in the proposal. And so that will certainly be part of the final scoring as to where we land
For the proposal.
in the
yeah,
final proposal.
Not for this.
Not for the qualifications.
Okay.
Exactly right.
Yeah, I thought Brian and his team did a nice job of articulating the developer role, and then I actually put part of that into the staff report. It's on page 11 of the RFQ, and it lays out that the project will be developed in accordance with an agreement between RVSD and the developer. It's known as a DDA. Disposition and Development Agreement. So that I appreciate that and board member Meg's mentioned that, it allows this board the ability, to keep things on track as we've communicated with the city of Larkspur and as you've deliberated over many years now, in terms of visioning what the future of the property should be to fit into the community. So you'll have a role in that. But like you say, President Silla, we're not going to be developers, but,
Right.
but we'll be safeguarding the process that you've started.
Thank you. Any other questions on this? All right. So may I have a motion on this request for qualification, page
I'll
153?
authorize General manager to issue a request for qualifications, RFQ to interested developers for the surplus property at 2000 Grand Circle, California.
Okay, you're moving for that authorization by the board? Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
I'll second.
Okay. All those in favor?
All right.
Aye. Thank you. Thanks very much.
Thank you. And thank you, board members.
All right, now returning to our agenda. Item number 4, committee and representative report out. Finance committee. Want to tell us about the finance committee?
Okay, Mary and I met yesterday. We reviewed the March financial report. We had some comments. We're in great shape. not a hugely active month. We also went over the draft 25-26 proposed budget and discussed that in detail, which we'll also get to look at tonight. And then we reviewed the RFQ for Larkspur Landing. That's it.
Thank you. We did the whole packet, basically. Human Resources Committee. Michael, do you remember? Felicia, would you prompt us on what we discussed at the Human Resources Committee?
I love the dog.
Yes.
I
You're
feel
in that
like
right
that
now.
was a lifetime ago. Maybe
It
I
was-
just.
It was a
been
number of weeks ago. Yeah. So
busy.
I was just thinking about that myself as we were coming to this item. And I can say that the HR committee reviewed a draft salary and benefits resolution for the
That's right.
unrepresented
That's right.
employees, which will be presented to the full board at the June meeting. And there was also a report on the vacancies that are now required by AB 2561. My trusted board clerk has that memorized. And yes, there was a review of an updated personnel policy book that we're going to be also presenting to the full board, hopefully here in the next couple of months. And
And
That was it.
discussion of taking on LCW's personnel policy book, correct?
exactly
Because
right.
they automatically update it with changes in state law.
That's
which
right.
seems very efficient.
Mhm.
Yes, yeah, and the vacancies were, I feel like you would like this, Doug. We are required, if we have too many vacancies, we're required to report about that such that we're not just kind of saving ourselves money by not filling positions, but we don't really do that anyway as a practice. Thank you. Apologies for not remembering.
Well, I thought it was last month we had that meeting. So.
Was it last calendar month? No, it was. Okay. Okay. We just haven't had a meeting.
I have a comment.
Yes.
Yeah, I heard that we hired a new level 1 sewer worker and we got 25 applicants.
51 applicants.
51 applicants.
51 applicants. We did actually have a number of vacancies that we were filling with that one recruitment. In fact, we have one CSW who is scheduled to start on June 9th and 3 others who we have conditional job offers out that are currently going through background.
So how many, that was 4 positions?
4 positions, that's right.
But like for the beginning sewer worker, was it, how many of those did?
We did one large recruitment for all of the
Everything.
positions, right?
Everything.
So 51 applicants for 4
51 applicants
vacancies.
For 4
Mhm.
positions, okay.
Hmm.
That kind of puts the myth on the reason San Rafael needs to.
Yep. Did any of them come from San Rafael?
No.
Yeah, did we send them?
Interesting.
I may bring that up at our next joint ad hoc meeting.
All right, Central Marin Sanitation Agency.
Okay.
Doug or Michael, would you like
So
to
I got-
report on that?
No, let you go ahead.
Okay. So we had the CMSA fee ordinance public hearing about some new ordinances for our fees, dumping and such. There was minor changes, nothing major there. Just kind of neaten some things up. We had the monthly treasurer's report format update. Our treasurer, our accountant is outstanding. He used to work for us. Now he works for them. And he's just cleaned it up and made the monthly treasurer report easier, cleaner, more inclusive, more things on it, and easy to read. We accepted the completion of the parking lot rehab. The parking lot was old and needed new rehabilitation. The problem was once they ripped up the old one, they found the new underground was kind of sludgy and would not hold a lot of weight. So we had to go back to the drawing board and add new cement underlying that and dig out some of that stuff. And it looks great. So beautiful new parking lot. It'll last for 25 years. We looked at the draft budget. We'll look at that again next week. And the controversial one was the San Quentin Prison Wastewater Service Agreement. Michael voted against that. I actually voted for it because I knew it was going to pass, but I made very clear that we are annexing the San Quentin Prison. And once we do, and we are annexing San Quentin Village, and we're annexing Oak Hill, is it Oak Hill or Oak Park? Yeah. And once that happens, that we'll be taking over the contract. That was made very clear to the board. So that was that. And so our job is to get it going on that annexing.
That's sitting with LAFCO, as I understand it, correct?
You've got bad news on that.
Oh, okay.
Is there an application?
The process has begun. You know, we're working with the county on the San Quentin Village, and it's in a similar way that we set up for Murray Park. But yeah, so it's not we've begun the process and the outreach that would go with that.
Why did Tom say what Tom said, or shall we wait?
There's some roadblocks, there's some.
Because
stumbling
what?
The
blocks.
prison doesn't.
Oh, okay. Okay. Michael, any comments on CMSA?
No, Doug mentioned his questions about that contract before voting. I voted no on it. He basically said the same thing as Doug did. So I said, it's a good conscience, but it's why. Both said the same thing.
Thank you. Any public comment on the committee reports out? No. Seeing none. Item number 5, verbal report by general manager.
Okay, thank you, President Silla, board members. I've got 4 or 5 items to discuss this, but we've been busy around here. I wanted to highlight something you're probably aware of or have heard about, but we received the District Transparency Certificate of Excellence from the Special District Leadership Foundation. SDLF is set up to try to encourage good governance in the special districts of the state. And this was thanks to the efforts of our board clerk, Christina Winnicky, and Julia Cooper before her. And this is achieved through completion of all transparency program requirements designed to promote transparency in our operations and governance to the public. And there's 8 essential transparency requirements that we have to meet, and they're ethics training for all our board members, public meetings. 3rd is financial transparency. 4th is public access. 5th is communication. 6th is district visibility. 7th is policy and document development. And 8th is engagement, that we should engage with our public. So we're very proud of this accomplishment. I could pass it around if you want to check it out. Thanks, Christina, and thanks, staff, for being an example of government transparency that we can all be proud of. Next, I mentioned that we're going to present at the CWA conference, in the annual California Water Environment Association conference. We presented discussing how we used our cleaning data, and we targeted repairs to remove about 1/4 of our high frequency cleaning lines off of our hotspot list. A quarter of them. We went down from about 400 to about 300 of 6-month lines. And so I brought the team down to Palm Springs. Patrick Filippelli, Manny Vigil, and John Vogel co-presented with me, and it was an engaging session. It was very well attended, and I think having them there to give their real world on the ground experience really made it for a special presentation. You may not know this, or you may, but John Vogel, our staff operations supervisor, was elected vice president of CWA at this conference. So
Is that one of those offices that you continue to be?
yeah.
So he's in line to be president.
Yes. Yeah. He would be next year, if it goes to plan, he'd be president-elect and then president. So
Oh.
it's a 3-year journey.
Congratulate him from us and thank him.
Yeah, you bet. I will. I will definitely pass that along. All right. My 3rd item is on May 2nd. I was asked to participate on a panel at the annual BACWA meeting, which is the Bay Area Clean Water Agencies. and they hold this in Berkeley. And I gave a talk on climate resilience and planning for uncertainty. And I was on a panel with San Mateo and San Francisco Public Utilities Commission representatives. The San Mateo was the Department of Public Works director there, Matt Fabry, who's very accomplished. It was a privilege to be on a panel with him. I have a lot of respect for him. And so, yeah, I gave some case studies on, I mean, the upshot, you might remember my graphic and my short memo about rainfall in our district compared to neighboring districts. I put that in a board packet in January of this year. So I summarized some of that information and discussed a couple of case studies where, in essence, an inch of rain was predicted and we got 4 or 12 inches. I think that was a 4-inch storm. That was a 12-inch storm. At any rate, I think people appreciated the details and the lessons learned and all the actions that came out of those storms that we followed up on. And the regulators were in the audience, so it's good to show, how we use that information to improve what we're doing. And the last thing I wanted to mention was this week, wasn't it? Sanitary District Number 2, our neighbors in Corte Madera. Fernanda Stefanik, who is a project manager over there, and really it shows a lot of leadership in their organization for the sewer program. She hosted a meeting of sanitary districts throughout Marin and provided discussion topics that we shared. And it was a very productive discussion. There's 14 sanitary districts in East Marin, right? 14, or they're, towns and et cetera, but 14 different organizations, and 10 of them were represented. So that was nice to see everybody there, and not on a Zoom meeting, but in person. And Fernanda did a great job. A couple of discussion topics were we're updating our standard specifications and approved materials as part of our sewer system management plan update, which you'll see next month. And that's a topic that we can coordinate among the districts on, in terms of collaborating on standardization of these things. So we did discuss some details, and we also discussed our mutual aid program and ways we could at least dust that off, maybe improve it, but have it be operational, really easy, user-friendly to find equipment, between the districts when there are emergencies, for pumps, generators, different vehicles, et cetera. So that was some good discussion. And I think that's about it. Oh, I did, it is in our packet. I want to draw attention to the info item on the Touch a Truck Day. I want to thank Paul Brummer for identifying that opportunity for outreach. And then, our staff showed up. It was just really a great showing with the, and then of course, board member Borstein showed up too. And so we have those pictures, and I just wanted to highlight that since I've been here, I'm not sure if I've seen a more effective outreach for sewer agencies than that forum, where the families were there for the Larkspur Library fundraising. It was very well attended, over 1,000 people.
I think way more than that.
Yeah.
So it was huge, and there were a lot of trucks there, and by far our truck was the hit of the show. I think I brought a couple pictures here there. So the kids went crazy because we had our VacCon, and they would first take water from the tank and pump it into the blue little pool there. And then they would dip that little thing down and suck all the water out of the pool. And they were doing that over and over again. The kids were demanding it. And so Eric Noel and Christina.
Yeah, Manny.
Manny,
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
That's all right.
Were fabulous. Their interaction with the people, their interaction with the children, Christina having about 800 little kids grabbing stuff off the table and trying to spin a little roulette wheel and keeping all that under control and being kind and wonderful. We gave out little yellow plastic hard hats to all the kids, and we had little safety vests, the little safety yellow vests there. And we handed that out to the kids too. And
Yeah, there's.
there you can see the hard hat. Yeah. It was giant. And there are
It was
thousands.
a Star Wars Day theme because it was May the 4th.
May the 4th.
And staff came up with really clever, it's the last slide, really clever, like the Star Wars text of Attack of the Clogs, and just hysterical. May the flush be with you. I mean, they just took it to a next level, I thought. So anyway, thank you, Director Borstein. I appreciate that you were able to attend, and yeah, everybody just felt really good about it. I think, when Katie Gardner was there she was just there for fun with the family outing, and her nephew really loved his hard hat. He wouldn't take it off until like late in the evening, in his little vest.
One of our staff.
Yeah, Katie Gardner. Yeah. So yeah, a great time was had by all.
Good.
That's excellent.
And that's it for my report.
Okay, great. Item number 6, verbal report by board members and requests for future items. Anyone?
Yep.
Yes.
So we've started the work in Fairfax, and I just wanted to report that it's been absolutely fabulous. Sir Francis Drake was being worked on. I will tell you that the IJ mentioned how great MMWD did their work, and then like 3 days after that, they completely fell apart because they were doing work further down. And so I just want to remind you, if this ever happens to us, further down Sir Francis Drake, Fairfax has one road. When our work was being done, they had it knocked off, so there was one lane in each direction. So it went fine. It was great. What happened with MMWD is they were doing work closer to Fairfax, and so it was great. And then they started going down near Archie Williams, and they let it be 2 lanes and then 1 lane again. And human nature, everybody wants to zoom up and cut in, and that never worked. So it took me like 45 minutes to get to work every day for a month. So that was a disaster. So on something like that, if that ever happens, what we want to do is cone for 2 hours, 1 lane. You can't let the numbskulls, the citizens, get into 2 lanes and then 1 lane to 2 lanes to 1 lane again. That just doesn't work human nature-wise. But it was absolutely fabulous job. The paving looks great. So very pleased, very pleased.
That's great.
How far along are we?
Well, I think we're done on Sir Francis Drake. And it was a lot of work. But I got to tell you, they were working. They were working. There was no standing around. So please pass that on to the contractors.
Yeah, I'd be happy to. Thank
And
you.
there's 2 of us that were driving through that every day.
And I don't know what,
Okay, well, there was one of us who was driving through it every day.
and Felicia, I don't know was that the same project that Marilee Rogers?
Yes, that's
formerly
exactly
Ruda, emailed about? Yeah, she was a high school teacher at Redwood, and when her name was Marilee Ruda when I was there. And then she married a high school teacher from Drake/Archie, whose last name was Rogers. But yeah, emailed out of the blue, not out of the blue, emailed because our staff had done such a fantastic job. And so
She was homecoming queen in my class.
she was homecoming queen in your class. I did not know that. She went to Redwood.
Yeah, she was in my class.
Wow.
Went to
Amazing.
Redwood.
Yeah. Well, geez Louise.
Yeah,
I did not think of her as a
Tell her I said
homecoming
that.
queen type, but I
she
guess.
was. She was very popular.
All right, excellent. Any other reports by board members or requests for future items? Seeing none, consent calendar. Anyone have anything they'd like to pull off of the consent calendar?
No.
All right, I'll entertain a motion.
I'd move to approve the consent.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Item number 8, consideration of accepting the district's draft fiscal year 25-26 budget and provide direction to staff. Felicia.
Yes, thank you, Director Silla and members of the board. I just want to say a couple of things here. The draft budget is annually reviewed by the full board and the finance committee in advance, and then the final budget will be presented at the June meeting. The finance committee gave us some feedback for the draft budget. And I'm looking forward to receiving some additional feedback from the full board tonight. These comments are welcome, not just tonight, but all the way really up until, I would say, 2 weeks before the June meeting. So that would be June 4th. If you have, an opportunity to review the budget even after tonight and see things that, you either have questions about or would like to see added or clarified, please contact staff, myself, or directly to Victor Damiani. And who, by the way, has done a really wonderful job on this budget. He, if you recall, started with the district in May of last year when the budget was prepared by a consultant because we were in between finance officers at the time. And so this was his first full cycle budget with the district. Really did a lovely job. Thank you, Victor, for making my job so much easier. Very much appreciated. And the only other thing I'll say is that is, I think, an important thing to note is that the presentation, the format, if you will, of the budget document is designed to be in conformance to with the GFOA criteria to be eligible for the Distinguished Budget Award. So that is something that, we started doing within the last few years, and we have in fact received the Distinguished Budget Award, and we're looking forward to submitting for that award again. And with that, I'll hand it over to Victor for the presentation.
Good evening to the chair of the board and members. I am pleased to be here to present the draft of our 25-26 fiscal year 25-26 budget. This is our first draft, and as Felicia mentioned, we'll bring the final back in June for consideration of adoption. I'm mostly going to go through the highlights that were presented in the staff report, but there's a few other things that I'll point out in the document just so that you're aware of them and know where to find them. Starting on page 2, we have the message from the general manager. We have a page of the message and then an entire page of recent major district achievements. So that's a good page to take a look at. Then looking over at page 15, I just wanted to point out that the financial policies here have been updated with the changes that were made last month at the board meeting that the board approved for financial policies. Those have been updated and included here. And then lastly, if you take a look at page 18, I just wanted to point out that there's a whole section in the budget document for our district performance metrics. And these, for the most part, or actually they're taken from the monthly reports that are brought to the board every month. The major difference being that we've projected out to the end of the fiscal year. With that, we'll start taking a look at some of the financial highlights. If you look at page 29, this is a good table to look at. This is the overall funding sources and uses for the district as a whole. And we will start by taking a look at the sources, which is our revenues. You'll see those down at the second half of the page. And I'll just talk about the two major ones, which is the total revenues are 41.6 million. And as you know, our main revenue source are our sewer service charges, and those are budgeted at $29.8 million. And that's really based on the rate study that we had completed last May. And so we have 5 years of rate study. So this is a very stable revenue source for us. It's been developed through this rate study, and we know basically what that revenue source is going to be for the next another 4 years out from here. That's a nice thing to have. It sort of insulates us in a lot of ways from some of the financial uncertainty that's swirling around in the economy at large. So, our second largest revenue source is property taxes, and we have that budgeted at $9.9 million. If you look in that row for property taxes, you'll see that we have 9.9 million. It looks like when we compare it to the previous year's budget, it's a decrease. However, as I mentioned over the last couple of months, we think that we're going to miss on that budget for property tax in the current year. So rather than calculate based on last year's budget, I calculated it based on what we think we're going to get this year. So if you look at the projected column, you'll see we're at 9.7, and then the budget for 2026 is at 9.9. Continuing on with the quick look at the major expense categories. Total expenditures are projected at 43.7 million. And that includes the CMSA treatment plant costs of 10.2 million. Again, that's pretty stable on the expense side. We know what that's going to be based on the calculations that have been set out. And then also we can tie that out to the budget over at CMSA. We also have debt service at $6.7 million. Again, that's a pretty well-known number. That's based on our debt service schedules. And then we have a capital improvement proposal of $10.8 million. So if you look at the bottom of this table, you'll see that we, when you combine the revenues and expenses, we are looking at a $2.2 million decrease in fund balance. That's not coming as a surprise to us. This is part of the process of changing over from debt financing of our capital program to pay as we go. Moving on to page 20, I'm sorry. Yep.
So last year we were predicting a $2 million deficit as well, and we're probably not going to have one.
Correct.
That's kind of rearranging probably capital more than anything.
Moving on to page. I think it's nice to look at the fund. I'm sorry, what page? 38 and 39 of the budget, which is board packet 84 and 85. Then you can see our budgets by fund with the operating fund and the capital fund. If you look at this page, you'll see that the operating fund is projected to have a net revenue of around $6.2 million. However, as you know, we then turn around and transfer that to the capital fund as needed. And in this year, the entire amount will be transferred, $6.2 million. And then if you look on page 39, you'll see the capital fund is expecting a net expense of 8.4 million. So then we'll have that 6.2 transferred in from operations, but then we still have the $2.2 million shortfall. Next, we'll look at page 6.
I'm just curious about one thing. It's not a big deal. I'm just wondering why the board of directors budget went down by 17%. Is somebody getting axed here? That something I should know about?
I saw that. Yeah.
I mean,
They got to cut back somewhere.
I don't recall off the top of my
Okay.
head, but I can look into it and let you know.
Based on it's just based on projected meetings, and we did review the policy about what meetings are reimbursable, right? Or that
Yeah, where was
Eighty
where
dollars?
exactly
40,
is
40,
that?
That's on line 6.
Yeah, it's on line 6 on page 38.
There it is.
And yeah, it's a fair question, Doug, and I don't know if I remember exactly why we made that edit, but we can definitely look into that and report back at the June meeting or before. Yeah. The good news is if you go over budget, you don't get axed.
It's not a big item.
Typical, a
Has that-
$42 million budget. And we're on a line item of 40,000 or 47,000. Yeah, I don't think we had that many meetings last year, and we were at 47.
So the other thing is the software budget going up by 47%. Software renewal costs.
Yes, we do have a couple of new software products that will be rolled out in the coming
Okay.
year. It's the Esri, that's the correct
remember we approved kind of a dual program with our GIS. Yeah. So one's going to go up and maybe phase one out.
Okay.
And then the second one is the permitting software.
Okay.
Any other questions on that section? Okay, next, looking at page 68 and 69, this is the CIP. This is a 10-year plan.
Page 58.
I'm sorry,
68.
68 and 69. It's board packet 114 and 115.
Okay, 114. I'm getting there. Oh, yeah.
So this is a nice list of all the projects that we have coming up in fiscal year 26 and then forecast out beyond there. Looking down the column for fiscal year 26, you'll see the total is 12 million. That is made up of the 10.8 million that I mentioned earlier in project work. And then includes also $650,000 of capital purchases and $550,000 in the lateral grant and loan program. Steve has informed me he's planning to change the out years somewhat, but not in dollar amount, but just in the sequencing of the projects before the final budget.
I have a question. I know we have one septic loan.
Pamela, into the microphone.
I should put it around my neck.
I can't hear it.
The septic, we have a septic outstanding loan for about 50.
That's
Is it
right.
on here?
Just one.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, thanks. That's it.
Any other questions? I'll also point out that there's all very nice project sheets right after these pages that details each of the projects and gives a map of the location and various other information.
I saw on here a couple pages back that Fairfax special little bond they did for that neighborhood will be paid off next year. We need to party with them. Yeah. was it 25? How many years was it? 20, 25?
I think it was issued in 2006. That's right. So it'll be 20 years.
Good for them.
Next, lastly, we'll look at the 5-year forecast. If you turn to page 93 of the budget, which is board packet 139. First, we start with the list of assumptions, so you can see what assumptions were used in developing the forecast. And then on the next 2 pages, you'll see the actual forecast. We have 3 years of historical results for context, and then we have the projected for 2025, budget for 2026, and 5 years forecast. As you can see, in 2026 or 2025, we're still looking at our revenues being below our expenditures. We think that's going to even out in 2026 and going forward. If you follow the yellow line across that chart at the top, that's the board targets for our reserves. And you can see the gray area in the back is coming up. Those two, the line and the gray area are coming together. We're closing the gap on funding our board target reserves. I will say that board member Gaffney mentioned that he would like to have a little bit of narrative about the possibility of the sale of the property at Larkspur and how that may impact funding our reserves much sooner than 2031 here. That's shown here.
The comment was that it's not healthy to not be meeting your targets. And if we ever went for like a bond rating, they'd hate it.
They would hate it if what?
That we're not meeting our targets, our reserve targets. And so, we brought up that we've never included the Larkspur Landing in any of our, Mary brought this up correctly. And so, it's probably appropriate that we aren't meeting our targets if we're expecting, a big cash infusion. But normally, we set the targets and we're supposed to meet them. But we're missing it because of the huge capital programs that we've got going. But we do have, a remedy around the corner, 2 years or so. And so, I feel okay with it. That's the point.
Okay.
We don't want to get a bond rating right now.
We what? Don't
We
want?
don't want to get a bond rating right now because
No.
we're projecting a deficit in our targets. And I think we can explain it.
That concludes like the overall highlights,
Okay.
looking at the budget, and we're happy to take any questions or direction.
Thank you.
Thank you. Easy to read.
I'm sorry.
Easy to
Easy to
read.
read.
Oh,
Yeah.
I may call Felicia in the next week or two if I have questions, and she can pass them on.
Yeah. And Felicia made the point in the finance committee that Victor and the team made this the easiest, most collaborative budget prep process that she's ever experienced. And Victor said that also of our staff and the way people showed up. So a lot of good feeling about it. And it is extremely easy to read in this sort of format that is intended to be award winning. And it will be, I'm pretty sure. Yes.
And then speaking of easy to read, I did mention somewhat recently that we would put together a budget in brief that's similar to the PAFR that we do with our annual report, and that is in process. We haven't brought it forward yet, but it's in process, and I expect we'll bring it forward in June with the final.
Excellent. All right. Any questions from board members on the draft budget?
Yep.
So if you have any, get them, call up Felicia in between now and next month when the final budget will be presented to us for approval. Thanks, Victor.
Thank you.
We also commented on the terrific, page for major projects, each major project having a map and a discussion. It's really
Yeah.
quite good.
Do we need to have a motion for this, accepting this draft?
Yeah, that's a good question. Let me see if I remember how we do that.
It
Do you
just says
remember?
accept.
There's there's a
Okay.
recommendation to, yes, accept the draft budget.
All right. May I have a motion?
I move that we accept the draft fiscal year 26 budget and provide direction to staff in preparation for about the next month to present it at the June meeting.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you.
Thank you.
Accepted. All right, we've already done item number 9.
Done
And
it.
so we are moving on to informational items.
We did 10B.
All right, well, then we just have a whole hour and 5 minutes if we have a typical meeting length for Polly to tell us what's going on out there in the field, if you so like, or for the general manager to
no.
start.
No, just April was another no spill month. So thanks to all our hard work out there doing preventive maintenance. And just go ahead and have Paul come up to and give some of the highlights. There's plenty going on.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you for your time. Like Steve said, a no spill month, so that's 2 in a row. It's a good, we're headed in the right direction, so hopefully we can keep it going, knock on wood. Staff this in April completed confined space policy training. If you guys haven't heard, confined spaces are some of the most dangerous spaces that we deal with. They're manholes, wet wells, grit pits, and they're spaces that have restricted entry, exit, not intended for continuous occupancy with the potential for toxic air content. So you hear of a lot of people going down in manholes or toxic areas. So it's really strengthen the staff knowledge on what to do. And before we enter, air monitoring, there's forms we have to fill out where we evaluate the space. So it's really important to the staff, to the district, to make sure people in the staff are safe in these areas. For the pump crew, the district's pleased to welcome Joe Padilla. He's our new pump station supervisor. He's been meshing really well with staff. He's been doing a lot of his training. reviewing key procedures and really getting out in the field and familiarizing himself with the systems. There's a lot to learn. It's going to take him a little while, but he's doing really well. He's really doing well engaging with staff. So it's good to see. Really happy to have him on board. Line maintenance staff found 2 near misses in April. We happened to find a tree branch in a manhole. I don't know how a tree branch got in, but at some point, so staff found that doing regular routine inspections, and it was getting ready to back up, had a lot of toilet paper and whatnot. And then, and that was over on Green Valley Court in Sleepy Hollow. And then on Crane Drive in Sleepy Hollow, we actually found 2 full 3-inch like landscaping rocks. When they were cleaning, they pulled it back. So I worked with Raphael Zarco, the line maintenance supervisor, and we actually used Google Earth and started looking at the area to find houses that have that same certain kind of rock. And luckily enough, the Google Earth does it again. We were able to find the house, talk to the homeowners, found the same kind of debris in their yard. We didn't find any missing clean out caps, so we don't know when it would have entered the system, maybe previously when they were first doing the work, but it was a really good catch. So prevented a couple spills in April, which was nice.
That's awesome.
And then we also conducted some community outreach at the medical clinics and businesses around 5 Bon Air and Magnolia Avenue over by Jim Corbett's hardware store. We typically cleaning those lines, we'd bring back a basket full of gloves or this or that. So we're really trying to work the outreach with the medical professionals, dentists, to keep that stuff, along with Steve's informational messages and his the phone alerts and whatnot. So we're really trying to push that to make sure that we're not getting that debris in the system, because it causes the majority of our spills. It's all debris and roots usually. So really trying to push that message home.
There's a lot of medical buildings there.
Yeah.
I just don't understand this. Would you you're a nurse. Would you do that?
If you're in a hurry, yep. No, it depends. It
Yeah,
depends
our-
on who trained you, really.
Yeah.
Is there a lot of Spanish speaking people there?
I did not do the outreach, so I'm not too sure.
Yeah, we did
Yeah,
outreach in
okay.
Spanish and the English bowl.
Yeah.
When you hire somebody in a medical field, they have to sign off all these things. I think it's just being lazy.
Yeah, we did notice when we were doing the outreach, there were signs in the restrooms and stuff like that, but you know how that goes. Sometimes people are in a hurry, I guess. And
Yeah.
but I think the more we get the information out there, the better it'll be. So if we see it again, we'll just keep going out there and going out there. They'll get tired of seeing us at some point. So we'll
Yep.
continue the outreach.
Yeah. This year it was really the new advertising campaign was around the gloves.
Yep.
And trash it, don't flush it was our original ad campaign.
Yeah.
So we'll stay at it. It'll be-
Novato has that big Roland medical building.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe Sandeep, is it Sandeep's area?
Mhm.
Kind of interesting to see if they're having the same.
I could reach out. We've been talking with a gentleman up there recently when they had a force main rupture. If you remember, we lent them a whole bunch of lay flat hose so they could pump out and whatnot. So I've been communicating with him, and he was interested in our mutual aid information. So I sent that over to him recently because he's not part of our local JPA mutual aid. So I've been communicating. I'll ask the question and see what they're having to deal with over there. The repair crews still going hard around there. They're going to pick up through summer. They did 22 manhole rehabilitations. This is grouting to keep eye and eye out, to fix loose bricks, new rim and covers. And then also 27 point repairs, which is the internal pipe patches, fixing grade 4 or 5 visible void issues in the system. And condition assessment in the month of April, 3 service calls, rattling manhole, possible sewer leak, which it was not, thankfully. It was a private issue, and a sewer smell. Yeah, so that's about it. If there are any questions, or you guys want to talk about any of the other metrics here?
I read that we have SCADA on all the major pump stations. Do we put it on lift stations? Are they on SCADA too?
Yes, sir.
In all of them?
Yeah.
Oh, that's good.
They don't all have the same level of detail. It shows you pump run on and off, alarms and that kind of thing.
Level and then-
Yeah.
Okay. Then I had a comment, the year-to-date footage cleaned. It was 128 miles. Lines cleaned. Our manager explained some of them we clean twice a year, so it's not that, individual miles, but 128 miles, that's a lot.
That's a lot of miles.
We're really working to keep the trucks out there. And with the new staff coming on board, we're hoping we'll have hopefully 3 trucks at a minimum out flushing every day is the goal.
That's great. All right, board members, any other questions? Thank you, Polly.
Just out of curiosity, on the touch a truck event,
Yes, sir.
how much those little plastic helmets cost?
I'll find out, but maybe a nickel each. They're very,
For a nickel each, you think?
if that.
As I'm riding around, which I used to do more, and hopefully we'll do more, I see all the owners looking at our
Mhm.
trucks out there. Would it make any sense, you think, those little helmets in the truck to hand out to the people who stop by? and look at the
I'm
truck?
open to all aspects of public outreach, and we'll take direction however you guys feel fit.
They're such a hit.
We do have some leftovers from the event and we are using them in just exactly that way. We also, if the board recalls, for the 125th anniversary of the district, we had stickers made. And so we have plenty of those. If you're interested in having a collection to give out to the toddlers in your neighborhood, I'd be happy to give you a supply.
Thank
But you
you.
don't have to carry around, yellow
I'm
plastic
picturing
hats.
Michael bicycling around with plastic
Yeah.
hats and a backpack, and he's like, wait.
Well, yeah, actually, just 12 years ago, I thought that would be fun. The difference, anyway, at the time, I actually had a whole bunch made up, and we threw them out.
Hats?
Sorry to hear that.
Yeah. Greg and Wendy, and whoever decided that that was not going to get done, and so.
Well, we do have a community outreach budget, and I think for, a nominal investment, it wouldn't be a bad way to engage with the local ratepayers and their children who are very enthusiastic about our trucks.
So
All right, that is the end of our agenda for this evening. So with that, we'll adjourn and be back on June 18th. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Good night.
I don't know whether